Captain Daniel Harris stood before the massive viewing screen in the council chamber. Behind him sat representatives from 40 different alien species. Every one of them looked worried. The holographic display showed a dark region of space that seemed to swallow the stars around it. "The dead zone has expanded again," said Council Leader Thexanar, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. 3 more ships disappeared last month. We lost contact with a Vorith dreadnought, a Kalari science vessel, and a Zenthi cargo hauler. No distress calls. No debris, nothing. Daniel watched the display rotate. The dead zone stretched across 12 light years now. Red markers indicated where ships had vanished. There were over 200 markers. "How long has this been happening?" asked Commander Kyle Brooks, who stood beside Daniel. Kyle was the chief engineer of the HMS Defiant, and he had served with Daniel for 8 years. 117 years, replied Thexnar. "The first disappearance was a probe. We thought it was a mechanical failure. Then a mining ship vanished. Then another. And another. No species has ever sent a ship into that zone and gotten it back. The survival rate is 0. Lieutenant Maya Grant leaned forward in her seat. She was young but sharp, one of the best navigation officers in the human fleet. "Has anyone detected what causes the disappearances?" "No," said another council member, a tall Vorath female named Keshva. "Every scan shows nothing. Empty space. Normal radiation levels. No unusual gravity. Ships enter and simply cease to exist." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. He had seen dangerous places before. Black holes, neutron stars, plasma storms. But those were natural dangers that followed rules. This was different. This was a mystery that had killed thousands of people across a century. "The Council has made a decision," Thexanar announced. "The dead zone is now forbidden territory. We are establishing a quarantine perimeter. No ship may enter. No exceptions." Several council members nodded in agreement. Daniel understood their reasoning. If you couldn't solve a problem, sometimes the only option was to avoid it. "Captain Harris," Thexnar continued, "your ship, the HMS Defiant, has been assigned to map the outer boundary. You will maintain a safe distance at all times. Your mission is to observe and report any changes. Nothing more." "Understood," Daniel replied. The meeting ended an hour later. Daniel walked through the corridors of the orbital station with his senior officers. Kyle looked troubled. "Something bothers me about this," Kyle said. 200 ships over a century. That's not random. There's a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" asked Dr. Lisa Warren, the ship's xenobiologist. She was brilliant and curious, always asking questions others didn't think to ask. "Look at the timeline." Kyle pulled up a data pad. "Ships disappear in clusters. 3 or 4 at once, then nothing for months. Then another cluster. It's almost like something is hunting." Maya shivered. "That's a cheerful thought." They reached the docking bay where the HMS Defiant waited. She was a human-built ship. Smaller than the massive alien cruisers, but tough. Humans had only joined the Galactic Coalition 30 years ago, and their technology was still considered primitive by some standards. But human ships had one advantage. They were built to take damage and keep flying. The next day, the Defiant left the station and headed toward the dead zone. The journey took 4 days. As they approached the boundary, Daniel ordered the crew to yellow alert. "All stations report," he said from his captain's chair. "Navigation systems optimal," Maya reported from her console. "Maintaining distance of 5,000 kilometers from the boundary." "Sensors are active," said Lieutenant Craig Murphy, the tactical officer. "Running full spectrum scans. Engineering is stable," Kyle added. "All systems green." Daniel studied the view screen. The dead zone looked like a hole in space. Stars simply stopped at its edge as if someone had erased them. "Launch scanning probes," Daniel ordered. "Let's see what we can learn." 3 probes shot forward, crossing into the dead zone. For 30 seconds, they transmitted normal readings. Then, one by one, they went silent. "Probe 1 offline," Maya said. "Probe 2 offline." "Probe 3 offline." "Any indication of what happened?" Daniel asked. "No, sir. They just stopped transmitting. No damage signals. No error codes. Just gone." Lisa studied her console. "That's strange. The probes are designed to function in extreme conditions. They should have lasted longer even if they were destroyed." They continued mapping the boundary for 3 days. Every probe they sent in vanished. Every scan came back empty. It was frustrating work that revealed nothing. On the 4th day, something changed, Captain. Maya said suddenly. I'm picking up a signal. Everyone on the bridge turned to look at her. What kind of signal? Daniel asked. Distress beacon. Automated. It's coming from inside the dead zone. The bridge fell silent. Craig checked his instruments. Confirmed. The signal is approximately 2,000 kilometers inside the boundary. It's a Kalari frequency. The science vessel, Lisa said. The one that disappeared last month. They're still alive. Daniel felt his heart rate increase. Can you isolate the signal? Get more information? Maya worked her console. Yes, sir. The beacon indicates 47 life signs. Ship name is the Kalari Explorer. They've been trapped for 36 days. Kyle stood up. We need to inform the council immediately. Already sending the report, Craig said. They waited. 2 hours later, a response came through. Thexanar's face appeared on the screen. Captain Harris, the council has reviewed your report. Our decision stands. The dead zone is forbidden. You are not authorized to attempt a rescue. But there are 47 people alive in there, Daniel protested. We understand your concern, Thexanar said, but we cannot risk more lives. Every ship that has entered that zone has been lost. We will not add yours to the list. Continue your mapping mission. That is an order. The transmission ended. Daniel sat back in his chair. Around him, his crew looked at each other in disbelief. Sir, Maya said quietly, that distress signal is getting weaker. If we don't do something soon, those people will die. Daniel stared at the view screen. He thought about the 47 Kalari trapped in that darkness. He thought about his orders. He thought about what was right. Maya, how long until the signal fails completely? At the current rate of decay, maybe 48 hours. 48 hours. 2 days before those people died alone in the dark. Daniel had made hard decisions before, but never one like this. If he disobeyed orders and entered the dead zone, he would likely die. His entire crew would die. But if he did nothing, the Kalari would certainly die. He looked at his senior officers. Kyle nodded slowly. Maya's jaw was set with determination. Lisa met his eyes and gave him a slight smile. Even young Craig looked ready. All hands, Daniel announced over the ship-wide intercom. This is the captain. We have detected survivors inside the dead zone. The council has forbidden us from attempting a rescue. I am going in anyway. This mission is entirely voluntary. Anyone who wishes to leave may take a shuttle back to the station. No judgment. No consequences. You have 1 hour to decide, he waited. 1 hour passed. Not a single crew member left the ship. Daniel took a deep breath. Maya, set course into the dead zone. Take us to those survivors. Yes, sir, Maya said, her fingers flying across her console. Course plotted. The HMS Defiant turned toward the darkness and accelerated forward. The boundary of the dead zone grew larger on the view screen. In moments, they would cross a line that 200 ships had crossed before them. None of those ships had ever returned. Entering the dead zone in 10 seconds, Maya counted down. 5 seconds, 3, 2, 1. The ship crossed the boundary. The stars disappeared. Everything went dark. The darkness was absolute. Every screen on the bridge went black for 3 seconds. Then the emergency lights flickered on, casting red shadows across the bridge. Report, Daniel said, keeping his voice steady despite the fear clawing at his chest. All primary systems offline, Kyle's voice came through the intercom from engineering. Switching to backup power. Give me a minute. The main lights came back on. Consoles beeped as they rebooted. Maya's navigation display lit up, but the image made no sense. Lines and numbers scrolled across the screen in patterns that couldn't be right. Navigation is compromised, Maya said. She tapped her console, frowning. Sir, according to these readings, we're in 3 different locations at once. That's impossible, Craig said. I know what's impossible, Maya snapped. I'm telling you what the instruments say. Lisa moved to Maya's station and studied the display. These readings don't match any known physics. It's like space itself is folded here. Daniel stood and walked to the view screen. Outside he could see stars, but they were wrong. They pulsed and shifted, appearing and disappearing. Some seemed to move in impossible directions. Long-range communications are dead, Craig reported. I can't reach the council station. I can't reach anyone outside the dead zone. Can we still navigate? Daniel asked. Maya worked her controls. Yes, but I'm flying blind. I have to ignore half my instruments because they're giving contradictory data. Use visual reference points, Daniel suggested. Track the distress beacon manually. Good idea, Maya said. She began working with the beacon signal, using it as a guide. The Defiant moved forward slowly. Outside the view screen, the stars continued their strange dance. Occasionally, something would flash past the ship. Dark shapes that might have been debris or might have been something else. "Captain," Lisa said suddenly, "look at this." She put an image on the main screen. It showed a piece of wreckage floating in space. The metal was twisted but intact. There were markings on the hull. "That's a Vorath ship," Craig said. "Or part of one." "Scan it," Daniel ordered. Lisa ran her sensors over the debris. "The metal is intact. No burn marks. No signs of weapons damage. It's like the ship was torn apart by hand." They passed more debris as they traveled deeper. Pieces of dozens of different ships floated in the darkness. None showed signs of normal damage. No explosions. No impacts. Just twisted metal and empty corridors. "I'm detecting a ship ahead," Maya said. "Intact. 2 kilometers. "On screen," Daniel ordered. The view screen showed a large vessel drifting in space. It was a Zenthi cargo hauler. Lights still on, but completely motionless. "Life signs?" Daniel asked. Lisa checked her sensors. "None. The ship has power. Environmental systems are running. But there's nobody aboard." "That's the ship that disappeared 2 weeks ago," Craig said, checking the database. "It had a crew of 19. Daniel felt a chill. "Where did they go?" Nobody answered. They continued past the ghost ship, leaving it behind in the darkness. "Another ship ahead," Maya reported. "This one is older. Much older." An ancient vessel appeared on the screen. It was a design Daniel had never seen before. The metal was corroded, but the ship was structurally sound. "That's a Kelton ship," Lisa said with wonder in her voice. "They went extinct 80 years ago. That ship must have been here for decades." "Still no life signs," Craig confirmed. They found 5 more derelict ships over the next hour. All were empty. All had power. All were perfectly preserved except for their missing crews. It was like the people had simply vanished. "This doesn't make sense," Kyle said over the intercom. "Ships don't just empty themselves." "Where did everyone go?" Lisa was studying her biological sensors. "I'm detecting trace organic compounds in all the ships we've scanned. Cellular residue. The crews were definitely aboard. But there are no bodies, no blood, no signs of violence. They were taken," Maya said quietly. "Something took them." The words hung in the air. Daniel didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was clear. Something in this zone was removing crews from their ships without damaging the vessels themselves. "The distress beacon is getting stronger," Maya announced. "The Kalari ship is close, maybe 30 minutes at current speed." "Slow to 1/4 speed," Daniel ordered. "Keep all sensors active. I want to know if anything comes near us." The Defiant crept forward through the darkness. The crew was silent, watching their instruments carefully. Every shadow seemed threatening. Every flicker of movement on the sensors made them jump. Then the strangeness began. Craig was the first to notice. "Sir, my tactical display is showing phantom contacts. They appear for a second, then vanish." "I see them too," Maya confirmed. "Multiple contacts all around us. But when I focus sensors on their location, there's nothing there." Lisa's console started beeping. "I'm detecting energy signatures, but they're not electromagnetic. They're something else. Something I've never seen before." Daniel felt pressure building behind his eyes, a faint headache starting at the base of his skull. He looked around the bridge and saw his crew rubbing their temples. "Is anyone else feeling that?" he asked. Everyone nodded. Kyle's voice came through the intercom. "Engineering feels it too, sir. It's like something is pressing against my thoughts." "Some kind of field effect?" Daniel suggested. "Maybe," Lisa said. She looked worried. "Or maybe something is trying to make contact." The pressure increased. Daniel closed his eyes and tried to push it away. He heard whispers at the edge of his hearing. Not words exactly, but something that felt like communication. It was deeply unsettling. "Captain," Maya said, her voice strained. "The Kalari ship is ahead." "Visual range." Daniel forced his eyes open. On the view screen, a medium-sized vessel floated in a pocket of twisted space. Reality seemed to bend around it. The stars behind the ship were stretched and distorted. "Hail them," Daniel ordered. Craig sent the signal. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a face appeared on the screen. It was a Kalari, one of the species that resembled large insects with compound eyes. But this Kalari looked exhausted. Its eyes were dim and its movements were slow. "Human ship," the Kalari said. Its voice was weak. "You should not have come. You must leave." We're here to rescue you, Daniel said. I'm Captain Daniel Harris of the HMS Defiant. Rescue? The Kalari made a sound that might have been a laugh. There is no rescue from this place. We thought we could study it. We were fools. What happened to your ship? The Kalari leaned closer to its screen. We discovered the truth about the dead zone. It is not empty, Captain. It is occupied. There are things here, things that exist between dimensions. They feed on consciousness, on awareness, on the energy of living minds. Daniel felt his blood run cold. The missing crews? Consumed. Their consciousness was extracted and devoured. Their bodies dissolved into nothing. We have been fighting them for 36 days. 47 of us boarded this ship. Now only 39 remain. 8 of my crew are gone, Captain. Taken while they slept, pulled from their bodies by things we cannot see. The pressure in Daniel's head spiked. He gritted his teeth against it. These entities, Daniel said, can they be fought? They cannot be fought by conventional means. They exist partially in our dimension and partially in others. They attack the mind directly. Most species cannot resist. Their thoughts are consumed within minutes of exposure. Most species? Daniel caught the emphasis. But not all. The Kalari stared at him through the screen. We have been monitoring your ship since you entered the zone. The entities have been attacking you for the past hour. The pressure you feel in your mind. The whispers at the edge of thought. That is their assault. Daniel realized the Kalari was right. The headache. The strange sensations. They were under attack right now. But you are still functioning, the Kalari continued. Your crew is still operating your ship. Do you understand what this means? We Kalari lasted only hours before the first of us was taken. You humans have endured for an hour and show no signs of breaking. Lisa looked at Daniel with wide eyes. Our neural patterns must be different somehow. More resistant, perhaps, the Kalari said. Or perhaps you humans are simply more stubborn than other species. Either way, you may have a chance. But you must leave now before they concentrate their full attention on you. We came to rescue you, Daniel insisted. We're not leaving without your crew. The Kalari was silent for a long moment. You would risk your entire ship for strangers? Yes, another long silence. Then the Kalari spoke again and Daniel heard something new in its voice. Hope. Then we will help you try, Captain Harris. But you must hurry. The entities are gathering. They know you are here. And they are hungry. The pressure in Daniel's mind grew stronger. It felt like invisible fingers probing at his thoughts, trying to find a way in. He shook his head and focused on the Kalari captain's face on the screen. What's your name? Daniel asked. I'm called Velnara, the Kalari replied. I command this science vessel, or what remains of it. Velnara, I need to know everything about these entities. How do they attack? What are their weaknesses? Velnara's antennae twitched. They are difficult to explain. We have been studying them for weeks, but we understand very little. They exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. In our dimension, they appear as shadows or distortions, but their true form is elsewhere. Lisa leaned forward, listening intently. How do they feed on consciousness? They create a connection to the victim's mind, Velnara explained. At first it is subtle, a whisper, a shadow at the corner of vision. Then the connection grows stronger. The victim begins to hear voices, see things that are not there. Eventually, the entity pulls the consciousness completely out of the body. The physical form simply dissolves. We found only trace organic residue where our crew members vanished. That matches what we found on the other derelict ships, Lisa confirmed. The process usually takes between 1 and 3 hours for most species, Velnara continued. But you humans have been exposed for over an hour with no one lost. This is unprecedented. Craig spoke up from his tactical station. Maybe we can use that. If humans are resistant, we can protect the Kalari crew during the evacuation. That is what I hope, Velnara said, but you must understand the risk. The entities grow stronger when they focus their attention. Right now they are testing your crew, probing your defenses. Once they realize you intend to remove us from this place, they will attack with their full power. Daniel made his decision. Kyle, I need you on the bridge. Lisa, prepare medical bay to receive casualties. Craig, ready the shield generators. Maya, plot the fastest course back to the boundary. His crew moved immediately. Daniel turned back to Velnara. We're going to bring our ship alongside yours. Then we'll extend our shields to cover both vessels. That should give us time to evacuate your crew. Your shields will not stop the entities, Velnara warned. They do not exist in normal space. Physical barriers mean nothing to them. Then we'll have to rely on human stubbornness, Daniel said with a grim smile. Kyle arrived on the bridge, breathing hard from running. Engineering is ready, Captain. I've diverted extra power to the shield generators. Good. Maya, take us in. The Defiant moved closer to the Kalari ship. As they approached, the distortion in space became more visible. Reality itself seemed to twist and bend around the trapped vessel. Maya had to adjust course constantly to compensate for the spatial anomalies. 20 meters, Maya announced. 1510 contact, the two ships touched gently. Craig activated the shield extension, projecting the Defiant's defensive field around both vessels. The effect was immediate. The whispers in Daniel's mind erupted into screams. The pressure multiplied tenfold. He gasped and gripped the armrest of his chair. Around the bridge, his crew staggered. They're angry, Lisa said through gritted teeth. They know what we're trying to do. On the screen, Valnara was holding its head with multiple limbs. They are attacking us with everything they have. My crew cannot endure this much longer. Then we move fast, Daniel said, fighting through the pain in his skull. Kyle, supervise the evacuation. Take a security team. Get those people onto our ship as quickly as possible. Yes, sir. Kyle ran from the bridge. Daniel stood, forcing himself to stay upright despite the mental assault. All crew, this is the captain. We are under psychic attack. I know it hurts. I know it's frightening. But we are humans. We are too stubborn to give up. Hold your positions. Do your jobs. We will get through this. He didn't know if his words helped, but he had to try. Leadership meant showing strength when you felt weak. It meant standing firm when you wanted to run. First group of Kalari coming aboard. Kyle's voice crackled over the intercom. They're in bad shape. Lisa, get your medical team to airlock 3. The evacuation took 20 minutes that felt like 20 hours. Daniel watched his crew work through the assault on their minds. He saw Maya's hands shaking as she maintained position. He saw Craig's face twisted in concentration as he managed the shields. He saw Lisa coordinating medical response while tears streamed down her face from the pressure, but none of them broke. None of them stopped working, sir, Craig said suddenly. I'm detecting movement. Around the ships. Multiple contacts. Show me, Daniel ordered. The view screen changed to an external view. At first, Daniel saw nothing unusual. Then he noticed the shadows. They moved against the starlight, flowing like liquid smoke. Dozens of them. Hundreds. They circled the two ships, growing closer. Those are the entities, Valnara said from the screen. Its voice was barely a whisper now. They are gathering their full strength. When they attack, it will be overwhelming. How many Kalari are left to evacuate? Daniel asked. 11, Kyle reported. We're loading the last group now. Hurry, Daniel urged. The shadows moved closer. They began pressing against the shields. And even though the shields were meant to stop physical objects and energy, something about the entity's presence made the barrier flicker. Shields are fluctuating, Craig reported. I don't understand why. These things shouldn't affect our shields at all. They exist in multiple dimensions, Lisa reminded him. Maybe they're attacking the shields from angles we can't perceive. The pain in Daniel's head reached new heights. He saw colors that didn't exist, heard sounds that had no source. For a moment, he thought he saw a face in the shadows outside, a vast alien intelligence studying him with hunger. Last Kalari aboard, Kyle announced, sealing the airlock. Detach from their ship, Daniel ordered. Maya, get us out of here. Yes, sir. Maya's voice was strained but determined. The Defiant pulled away from the Kalari vessel. As soon as they separated, the entities swarmed the abandoned ship. The shadows covered it completely. The vessel began to crumble, folding in on itself like paper. Within seconds, it collapsed into nothingness. They're destroying the ship, Craig said. They're angry we took their prey, Lisa replied. They're following us, Maya added, her voice rising in pitch. Multiple contacts in pursuit. Daniel sat back in his chair, fighting the agony in his mind. All power to engines. Get us to that boundary. The Defiant accelerated. Behind them, the shadows gave chase. They moved faster than any physical object could move, crossing space in impossible ways. They're gaining, Craig warned. The pressure in Daniel's mind became almost unbearable. He could feel the entities trying to tear his consciousness from his body. They were probing deeper now, finding cracks in his mental defenses. He realized this was what the other crews had experienced. This overwhelming assault that made thought itself difficult, But Daniel had spent 20 years in deep space. He had survived ship fires. He had endured solar radiation. He had walked on the edge of black holes. He had learned to function when his body screamed at him to shut down. He grabbed that training now and wrapped it around his mind like armor. The pain was there, but he pushed it aside. The whispers were there, but he ignored them. The shadows were there, but he refused to look at them. "Talk to me," he said to his crew. "Everyone say something. Keep your minds active." "Navigation holding steady," Maya said immediately. "Course locked. Shields at 70%, Craig reported. 65, 60. "Engineering is operating normally," Kyle added. "Though I really wish we could go faster." "Medical Bay is treating the Kalari," Lisa said. "They're traumatized but alive." Around the bridge, other crew members began speaking, reporting statuses, sharing observations, just talking to stay focused. Daniel realized they were all doing what he was doing, fighting the assault with activity, with purpose, with the stubborn refusal to give up. "Boundary ahead," Maya announced. 2 minutes. "The entities are intensifying their attack," Lisa warned. "I can feel them getting desperate." She was right. The mental assault reached a peak that made Daniel's vision blur. He felt something trying to pull him out of his own body. For a moment, he saw himself sitting in the captain's chair from outside his own eyes. The sensation was terrifying. Then he was back in his body, gasping. Around the bridge, his crew was struggling. Maya slumped over her console. Craig grabbed his head with both hands. But they kept working. They kept fighting. 1 minute. Maya forced the words out. The shadows wrapped around the ship now. They covered the view screen. The bridge lights flickered. Systems began failing as the entities found ways to attack the ship itself through dimensional angles that shouldn't exist. 30 seconds, Maya counted. Daniel could see the boundary ahead, a line where the stars suddenly became normal again, where reality followed the rules it was supposed to follow. It looked impossibly far away. "Shields down to 20%, Craig warned. "Keep going," Daniel ordered. 10 seconds. The ship shook. Alarms blared. The entities made one final attempt to stop them. Daniel felt his mind being torn in multiple directions. He held on with everything he had. 5 seconds. The shadows pressed inward, trying to crush the ship. 3. Daniel saw crew members collapsing. 2. He felt his own consciousness starting to slip. 1. The HMS Defiant crossed the boundary. The silence on the bridge felt strange after the constant assault. Daniel sat in his chair, his hands still shaking. His crew looked exhausted, but they were alive. They had all made it through. "Damage report," Daniel said, his voice hoarse. Kyle checked his console. "Hull integrity at 92%. Shields need full regeneration. We burned out 3 power couplings. But we're flying." "We're actually flying." "Communications?" Daniel asked. "Coming back online," Craig replied. He worked his controls for a moment. "Yes, long range is active again. We can contact the council." Daniel nodded slowly. "Send them a message. Tell them we recovered 39 Kalari survivors from the dead zone. Tell them we're heading back to the station." Craig sent the transmission. They waited. 2 minutes later, the response came through. Thexnar's face appeared on the screen, and the alien's 4 eyes were wide with shock. "Captain Harris, confirm your last message. You entered the dead zone?" "Yes, Council Leader. We went in, recovered the survivors, and came back out." "That is impossible. No ship has ever returned from that zone." "Well, we did," Daniel said simply. Thexnar stared at him for a long moment. "You disobeyed a direct order." "Yes, sir, I did." "You risked your ship and crew." "Yes, sir." "You violated the Council's quarantine." "Yes, sir." Thexnar's antennae trembled. "You are either the bravest captain I have ever met or the most foolish. Possibly both. Return to the station immediately. You will face a full inquiry." The transmission ended. Daniel looked at his crew. "Well, I'll probably lose my command. Maybe worse. But at least 39 people are alive who wouldn't be otherwise." "Sir," Maya said quietly, "we all made the choice to go in with you. If there are consequences, we share them." The other bridge crew nodded in agreement. Daniel felt a surge of pride for these people. They had faced something that had terrified the galaxy for over a century, and they had won. "Take us home, Maya," he said. The journey back to the station took 4 days. During that time, Lisa worked with the Kalari survivors. The rescued crew members were traumatized but recovering. Velnara spent hours talking with Daniel, explaining what they had learned about the entities. We were studying spatial anomalies when we detected the dead zone, Velnara explained in the captain's ready room. We thought it was a natural phenomenon, a region of folded space. We entered cautiously, but almost immediately we felt the presence. The entities, Daniel said. Yes. At first we thought we were experiencing equipment malfunctions, sensor ghosts. Then Velkas, our science officer, began acting strangely. He heard voices, saw things that were not there. We tried to help him, but within an hour he was gone. His body dissolved into nothing right in front of us. I'm sorry, Daniel said. Velnara's antennae drooped. We tried to escape, but our ship became trapped in the spatial distortion. We were stuck there for 36 days. 8 of my crew were taken. We expected to lose everyone. Then you arrived. Your message saved you, Daniel pointed out. If you hadn't sent that distress beacon, we wouldn't have known you were there. True, but you still chose to enter. Other ships received our signal. The council heard it. Only you came. Velnara leaned forward. Why? Why would you risk everything for people you did not know? Daniel thought about the question. Because it was the right thing to do. Because we're all part of the same community, even if we're different species. Because someone in trouble deserves help regardless of the risk. This is a human philosophy? I guess it is, Daniel admitted. We don't leave people behind. We don't abandon those who need help. Even when it's dangerous. Especially when it's dangerous. Velnara was quiet for a moment. The Kalari have much to learn from humans, I think. They reached the station on schedule. As the Defiant approached the docking bay, Daniel could see that something was different. There were dozens of ships surrounding the station. News vessels, official council ships, even military cruisers. Looks like we're famous, Kyle said wryly. The docking was smooth. As soon as the airlock opened, medical teams rushed aboard to help the Kalari survivors. Behind them came council officials, security personnel, and a swarm of reporters trying to get inside. Daniel was escorted to a conference room where the full council waited. 40 alien representatives sat in their seats, all watching him. The room was silent as he entered. Texnar spoke first. Captain Daniel Harris, you stand before this council charged with disobeying direct orders, violating quarantine protocols, and endangering your crew. How do you plead? Guilty on all counts, Daniel said. I made the decision. My crew followed my orders. If there are consequences, I alone should face them. That is not acceptable. Velnara's voice rang out. The Kalari captain had entered the room behind Daniel. Captain Harris saved 39 lives at great personal risk. He and his crew succeeded where every other species has failed for over a century. If you punish him, you punish the very qualities that make humans valuable members of this council. Other voices joined in. Keshva, the Vorath representative, stood. The captain violated orders, yes, but he also demonstrated something we have lost. Courage, compassion, the willingness to act when others will not. More council members spoke. Some argued for punishment. Others defended Daniel's actions. The debate went on for hours. Finally, Texnar called for silence. Captain Harris, the council is divided. However, one fact cannot be disputed. You and your crew accomplished something impossible. You entered the dead zone and returned. This alone changes everything we thought we knew. Texnar paused, looking at the other council members. The question we must ask is simple. How did you survive when no other species could? Daniel had been thinking about that question for 4 days. I believe it's because of how human minds work. We're chaotic, unpredictable. Our thoughts jump from one thing to another. We're emotional and irrational. These are usually considered weaknesses, but against the entities, they're strengths. Lisa had joined the meeting at some point. She stepped forward now. I've been analyzing the data from our time in the dead zone. The entities attack by creating connections to specific thought patterns. They look for order and logic. Most species think in very structured ways. Their thoughts follow clear paths. The entities can lock onto those patterns easily. But humans don't think that way, Daniel continued. We're messy, chaotic. One moment we're thinking about navigation, the next about what we ate for breakfast. The entities couldn't establish a strong connection because our thoughts kept shifting. You survived because your minds are disorganized? Keshva asked, sounding skeptical. We survive because our minds are adaptable, Daniel corrected. We can hold multiple contradictory thoughts at once. We can function through pain and fear. We can push aside mental intrusions and focus on the task at hand. It's not that we're immune to the entities. We felt their attacks, but we could fight through them long enough to complete our mission. Thexnar considered this. If what you say is true, then humans may be the only species capable of operating in the dead zone. Possibly, Daniel agreed. Though I wouldn't recommend making a habit of it. The experience was not pleasant. Yet you would do it again if needed? Thexnar asked. Daniel thought of the 39 Kalari they had saved. He thought of the hundreds of ships still lost in that darkness. Yes, if someone needs help, yes. The council members talked among themselves in hushed tones. Finally, Thexnar stood. Captain Harris, the council has reached a decision. You are hereby relieved of all charges. Your actions, while technically violations of orders, served the greater good and demonstrated the best qualities of council members. Daniel felt relief wash over him. Then Thexnar continued. Furthermore, the council recognizes that the dead zone represents a continuing threat. Ships will continue to vanish unless we act. We are therefore establishing a new task force dedicated to studying the dead zone and, eventually, neutralizing the entities within it. Captain Harris, you will command this task force. What? Daniel said, surprised. You have proven you can survive in that region. You understand the threat, and your crew has demonstrated exceptional resilience. We need these qualities. Will you accept this assignment? Daniel looked at his crew members who had gathered in the room. Maya gave him a small smile. Kyle nodded. Lisa looked excited at the prospect of studying the entities properly. I accept, Daniel said, but I have conditions. My crew stays together. We recruit only volunteers, and we do this properly. Research missions, not suicide runs. We learn about these entities before we engage them again. Agreed, Thexnar said. You will have full council support. Resources, personnel. Whatever you need. As the meeting ended and Daniel walked out of the conference room, Velnara approached him. Thank you again, Captain. You gave my crew their lives back. Just doing what needed to be done, Daniel replied. No, Velnara said firmly. You did what no one else was willing to do. You showed us that courage and compassion are not weaknesses. They are the greatest strengths any species can possess. The galaxy is fortunate to have humans among us. Daniel smiled. We're fortunate to be here. Outside the conference room, reporters swarmed. Questions flew from all directions. Daniel held up a hand for silence. The HMS Defiant entered the dead zone, recovered 39 survivors, and returned safely. 3 months had passed since the Defiant's return from the dead zone. Daniel stood in the ready room of his newly upgraded ship, looking at the holographic display of his new task force. 15 vessels, all volunteers from different species, but the core remained human crews. The council had given him everything he requested. Better sensors, improved shielding, medical equipment designed specifically for treating psychic trauma. Most importantly, they had given him time to prepare properly. Maya entered the ready room with a data pad. Final mission briefing in 10 minutes, Captain. All ships report ready. How are the mixed crews working out? Daniel asked. Better than expected. The alien crew members appreciate having humans around. They say it helps them feel safer. Maya smiled. Apparently, we're considered the tough ones now. Daniel shook his head in amusement. A few months ago, humans were the newcomers to galactic society. Now they were leading an expedition into the most dangerous region of known space. Kyle arrived next, followed by Lisa and Craig, the core team that had survived the first mission. They had all stayed with him just as they promised. Engineering reports all ships at optimal status, Kyle said. Power systems upgraded. We can maintain shields twice as long as before. Medical teams are ready, Lisa added. I've trained everyone on recognizing the signs of entity intrusion. We have protocols now. Tactical systems are enhanced, Craig reported. Not that we can shoot the entities, but at least we can better track their movements. Daniel nodded. Good. Let's join the briefing. They walked to the main conference room where representatives from all 15 ships waited. Daniel saw Velnara among them. The Kalari captain had volunteered to return to the dead zone, despite the trauma of the first experience. Thank you all for being here, Daniel began. You've all volunteered for what might be the most dangerous mission in Council history. I want to make sure you understand what we're facing. He activated a holographic display showing the dead zone. We know the entities feed on consciousness. We know they exist in multiple dimensions, We know most species cannot resist them for more than a few hours. But we've learned more since our first mission. Lisa stepped forward. We've been analyzing the data from the Defiant's original journey. The entities don't attack randomly. They're intelligent. They study their prey. They probe for weaknesses before making a full assault. We also learned that human neural patterns disrupt their feeding process, Daniel continued. Our chaotic thought patterns make it difficult for them to establish strong connections. This gives us an advantage, but not immunity, Velnara spoke up. Captain Harris is being modest. During our rescue, I observed the human crew closely. They endured mental assault that would have destroyed my people in minutes. Their resistance is not just natural. It is trained. Humans have a quality called determination. They simply refuse to surrender, even when logic suggests they should. Several alien crew members nodded. They had heard the stories. Our mission is threefold, Daniel explained. First, we map the dead zone completely. Second, we study the entities to understand their nature. Third, we attempt to communicate with them if possible. Communicate? One of the Vorath captains asked. You believe these creatures can be reasoned with? I don't know, Daniel admitted. But we have to try. If they're intelligent, maybe they can be negotiated with. If they're just predators, we need to know that too. Either way, understanding them is our best path forward. The briefing continued for another hour. Daniel outlined the strategy. The 15 ships would enter the dead zone in a tight formation. Human ships would be positioned to provide maximum protective effect. They would proceed slowly, gathering data at every step. Remember, Daniel concluded, our goal is knowledge, not confrontation. We go in, we learn what we can, and we come back out. No heroics. No unnecessary risks. We've already proven this zone can be survived. Now we prove it can be studied. The next day, the task force assembled at the dead zone boundary. Daniel stood on the bridge of the Defiant, looking at the darkness ahead. It still looked like a hole in space, but now he knew what was inside. And that knowledge made it even more frightening. All ships report ready, Craig announced. Then let's proceed, Daniel ordered. Maya, take us in. The 15 ships crossed the boundary together. The familiar sensations began immediately. Instrument malfunctions, spatial distortions, and the pressure in Daniel's mind as the entities detected their arrival. But this time was different. This time they were prepared. Entities detected, Lisa reported calmly, matching previous contact patterns. Beginning documentation. Around the fleet, science officers began recording data. The entities circled the ships, probing them. Daniel felt the mental assault, but it was manageable. Like a strong headache rather than the overwhelming agony of before. Human crews report normal resistance levels, Craig said. Alien crews experiencing stronger effects but remaining functional. That was the key. The mixed crews meant the alien members had humans nearby. Somehow human presence helped stabilize the others. Lisa theorized it was something about human neural activity creating interference patterns that disrupted the entity's attacks. They moved deeper into the zone. Derelict ships floated past. The task force documented each one, building a comprehensive database of every vessel that had been lost. I'm detecting patterns in the entity movements, Lisa said. They're not random. They're organized, like they're communicating with each other. Can we intercept their communications? Daniel asked. No, but I can map the patterns. It's like watching a dance. They move in coordination. Days passed as they explored. The task force penetrated deeper into the dead zone than any expedition had reached before. They found the remains of civilizations that predated the Council. Ancient ships from species long extinct. The dead zone had been consuming life for thousands of years. On the 5th day, they discovered something new. A structure, Captain, Maya said, her voice filled with awe. You need to see this. The view screen showed an enormous object floating in the darkness. It was crystalline, pulsing with light, and it was clearly artificial. Scanning, Lisa said. The structure is generating massive amounts of dimensional energy. I think this is the source. This is where the entities come from. Daniel stared at the structure. It was beautiful and terrifying. A doorway between dimensions. Can we communicate with it? He asked. I don't know. Let me try something. Lisa adjusted her instruments, sending out a signal on multiple frequencies. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the structure pulsed. The light changed color, and Daniel felt something new in his mind, not the invasive probing of before. This was different. It was like someone knocking on a door asking permission to enter. "They're responding," Lisa whispered. "The entities are trying to communicate." Daniel made a decision. He opened his mind slightly, allowing the contact. Images flooded in, not words but concepts, feelings. He saw the entity's perspective. They were not evil. They were hungry. To them, consciousness was food. They no more understood why other beings would object to being consumed than humans understood why cattle might object to being eaten. It was simply nature, but there was more. The structure was a prison, not a doorway. The entities were trapped here, unable to return to their home dimension. They had been feeding on passing ships for millennia because they had no other choice. Daniel pulled back from the contact, breathing hard. "They're prisoners," he said. "Trapped here by accident. The dead zone is their cage." The bridge fell silent. Lisa checked her readings. "If that's true, if we could find a way to send them home, the dead zone would become safe again." "But how?" Kyle asked. "We barely understand the technology that trapped them. Freeing them would take years of research." "Then we'll take years," Daniel said firmly. "We'll study this structure. We'll learn how it works, and we'll find a way to fix it." He opened a channel to all ships. "All vessels, this is Captain Harris. We've made first contact with the entities. They are not hostile by nature. They are trapped and desperate. Our mission has changed. We are no longer just studying the dead zone. We are going to solve it." In the months that followed, the task force established a permanent research station at the edge of the dead zone. Scientists from across the galaxy came to study the structure. Slowly, painfully, they began to understand the technology. The entities, realizing that humans wanted to help rather than destroy them, became less aggressive. They still needed to feed, but attacks on ships decreased dramatically. The dead zone was still dangerous, but it was no longer an automatic death sentence. Daniel stood on the observation deck of the research station, watching the dead zone. Velnara joined him. "We've been here 6 months," the Kalari said, "and we're making progress. The Council's Science Division believes they can reopen the dimensional gateway within a year." "That's good news," Daniel replied. "It is, and it is all because one human captain decided to disobey orders and enter a forbidden zone." Velnara paused. "I have been thinking about that, about why humans take such risks. And what have you concluded? That humans see possibilities where others see only danger? That you refuse to accept that anything is truly impossible? That you would rather die trying than live with regret?" Velnara turned to look at Daniel.